I have to say we were a little nervous when you see like 6 concurrent sessions all talking about basically very similar issues. So I'm glad to see all of you here. Thank you for coming. We hope it's a really interesting conversation, and I'm sure it will be. My name, as Danielle said, is AJ Glauber. I'm the manager of the South Asia Environment Program. I'm based in Singapore. And I'm lucky enough to have spent the last 2 years before this working on the East Asia side. So definitely, this topic is dear to my heart, and I think what we're hoping to do in this next session, we basically have 2 back-to-back sessions. Right now, we're really focusing on the role of government, sort of how they are, tackling these changes in many of the different countries in the region, and then what we'll move to after the break is looking at sort of private sector solutions. So I just encourage you all to stay around, So we have a great lineup of people. I'm going to ask I'm going to basically, ask our panelists to please just come up and take a seat, and I will introduce you as you go. I think you're going to find out that these are people who really every day are in the trenches working with air quality. Please come on up. Please have a seat. So we have Ms. Ruth Naibajo, who's coming from the Development Environment Subgroup in Jakarta, the Jakarta Development Planning Agency, or BAPADA. Please, so that's Ruth, and she's here with us. Then you have, please just wave your hand when I introduce. Yes, that looks great. Sit right there. Yes, perfect. Yeah, thank you so much. And Zia right here, you want to just smile? Yeah, smile and wave. Okay. So Zia Haq is the Additional Director General from the Department of Environment in Bangladesh, based in Dhaka. We also have Attorney Janice Ragoso Pamit, who's third on the panel right here, who is the Regional Director of the Environment Management Bureau in the National Capital Region in the Philippines. And then last but not least, we have Mr. Kanchan Kumar Nayak, who is the Senior Divisional Chemist and the Section Chief in charge of Pollution Control and Monitoring Division, Department of Environment in Nepal. Okay? So as you can see, you have people, this is really frontline air quality management across some of the biggest cities in the region. You saw in Danielle's presentation that this is the region that has the worst air quality in the world and the most number of people who are breathing it, okay? So this is a group of people who are helping make that better every day. So I'm gonna move over here for a moment and join you. Thank you so much. If that works, great. And what we're gonna hope to do, we have an hour for discussion. And I'm going to start by asking questions, but please, we really hope that this is a super interactive discussion, right? Definitely makes it much more interesting and real to hear people, what they're thinking, what they're doing, how they're leading on these complex issues, So I'm going to start, if I may, with Ruth, in the great city of Jakarta, which I was lucky enough to call home for 4 years. I have a sense of the challenges of the place. Ruth, can you tell us a little bit about so Jakarta as a vision, goals, right, about being a more livable, more globally competitive city, Can you tell us a bit about how air quality fits into that vision for the city's development?
Yes, good afternoon, everyone, and thank you, AJ, for the question. I will begin with it is true that Jakarta has a very big ambition. Jakarta wants to be the top 20 global city by 2045, and we know that despite, this is very a challenging one, despite all the challenges that we have, like many other big cities across the world, Jakarta also has rapid urbanization, which has the high urban, very dense urban environment, approximately 16,000 people per square kilometers. And also we have challenges like about 30 million people inside and surrounding area of Jakarta has affected of the unhealthy air quality condition. And we know that if we do not take any serious action, the business as usual scenario will rise the emission up to 39% by 2035. And we put the air quality as very essential in our broader vision. We want to make Jakarta more livable and also competitive city because we don't want to build a city just the infrastructure and skyscrapers, but we want to ensure the high quality of life. And the cleaner air, we believe, is very essential to attract the global talent and also investment and create more jobs too. So with the poor air quality, we believe that it is not only worsen the health condition, but also can lower the productivity of the people and also create a very high subsidy in health sector. It costs about 2.1 million until 2.9 million US dollar per year for this health subsidies. So we also understand that the air quality is also essential for the key performance indicator of the Green Economy Index, and this Green Economy Index is also what we use to measure the progress of being a sustainable hub, supporting the goal that we want, yes, the global, the top 20 global cities. So we put it as a broader vision also in our strategies, like improving our public transportation. And first of all, we want to achieve the 30% emission reduction by 2030 and net zero emission by 2050 through the better public transportation, also better management in waste and also energy. We do the constant monitoring also, and and most importantly, collaborative action with the other stakeholders. And yeah, we want some of the milestones that we want to achieve in this next 4 or 5 years is we want to increase the public transportation mode share also to 55% and zero waste open burning. We believe that like the other sessions say that the agricultural make open burning, but in Jakarta we have a very less agriculture, but many people burn their waste. So we wanted to make such a good collection hub and promote the recycling and reuse waste so we can achieve the zero open burning by the 2030. And also we want to promote the green energy like solar PV panel and also green building. And we also have about 111 real-time monitoring data, 111 stations for monitoring the air quality data, which is integrated with our website and also application that can be accessed publicly. And we also want to track about 160 industry, because we believe that the pollution, most of the pollution that Jakarta has is coming from transportation and also industry. And also we need the collaboration of all sectors to make our target achieved by doing massive public campaign so people can move and shift from their old behavior to more green one. Yeah, I think that's all. Thank you.
Right. No, I think that's excellent, Ruth. And you pointed to, the recognition that air quality there's opportunities, right, and also costs, right? The costs, as you mentioned, in terms of, yes, healthcare, but also competitiveness, livability. How do you attract global talent to places that no one wants to live, right? It's a real issue for many, many countries, right? So I think that's real. And I really appreciate the idea of having this KPI indicators to really, for the city performance, that looks at different elements of things linked to air quality. Yes, on the actual air quality itself, but also on the reduction. So excellent. Really appreciate that. So I'm going to turn from East Asia then to South Asia for a minute. I'm going to ask I mean, newest, you can tell me you're pretty new in your role, but not as new as the new government, I guess, in Nepal, right? So congratulations again, Kanchan, for that. Can you tell us a little bit? We know that air quality is a growing and priority for the country of Nepal. Can you speak a little bit about what is being done to tackle that? Thanks.
Thanks, Ajay, for the question. Actually, government of Nepal in its constitution, living in a clean and healthy environment is taken as the fundamental right of the people. And then we have policies, rules and regulation acts for environmental protections. And then we have action plans for like Kathmandu Valley air quality monitoring plan, management plan, which is under revision. It was established in 2020 and under revision in this, and we will revise it soon. And there we are in planning for National Air Quality Management Plan, action plan, that is under initiating process, and that will finish. The problem is the implementation. Problem is mainly in implementation phase. We have data monitoring stations already in 31 places, but most of them are not in good condition and not producing good results. Only half of them is in working condition, so we are planning for running all these stations smoothly. And communication with the local government, local bodies is again another problem. Although we have a provision of having local bodies, environment committee under the leading of deputy mayor in all local bodies, and they are working for the better environment in their local government sector. Yeah? So these are some issues in Nepal. Thank you.
Thanks, I appreciate that. That air is a fundamental right. Yeah, part of the reflection is critical. And this effort, as you said, about trying to have good data, right? I mean, data is really key, right? We say garbage in, garbage out, right? Like you have to have good data if you're going to make good decisions on policies and on enforcement. So really important. Great, appreciated that. Great, and so I think we'll move over to Janice, if we may. Janice, can you tell us, so I know you come from, you're a lawyer by training, right? And so you've come into this through the legal side. And at the same time, I understand that the Clean Air Act of the Philippines is like one of the oldest pieces of legislation in the region on air quality, right? It's been there since 1999, yeah? Quite impressive. So can you speak a little bit, so there's 2 decades of implementation experience with this. What do you see, what's working, and what do you see as challenges to take it for the next 20 years? Yeah, thanks.
Okay, thank you, AJ. For the Philippines, as it has been said, our 8749 or the Clean Air Act was enacted in 1999, so it's about 26 years or so already. So we started with the Clean Air Action Plan in 2000. So early on, after the enactment of the Clean Air Act, we had the Clean Air Action Plan. So it's a framework that manages both mobile and stationary sources. So we're able to implement policies for those industries regarding stationary sources and also for the mobile sources or those vehicles, transport vehicles. So, and in 2016, we have adopted the Euro 4 requirements, in which all new vehicles introduced in the Philippines must be equipped with Euro 4 engines and compliant with Euro 4 emission limits. This is important for the Philippines because it upon our monitoring, we noticed the decline, big decline from the PM 2.5 levels. For nationwide, there's a decline of 39%. So, and for Metro Manila, 33% decline already. That's for a 10-year period, 2015 to 2025. For PM10 levels, there's also a decline from 25.6% decline for PM10 levels nationwide, although in Metro Manila, it's still a bit high at 29% decline. So essentially that if you'll see our charts, you'll see a decline of meaning improved air quality with regard to the mobile sources, especially for Metro Manila or the one of the busiest regions in the Philippines, because a lot of a mix of industrial companies, the transports, and then the other residential sources of clean air or solar pollution. And so there's that decline shows that this policy is good for us. And we are actually in the transition from Euro 4 to Euro 5. So we're in that policy transition. So we're preparing the guidelines for that. Also, because of the Clean Air Action Plan, we have strengthened our permitting and regulatory processes. Industrial compliance inspections. So we have that. And also like, Pakistan? Indonesia. Jakarta. We have around 119 stations nationwide that's working. Although when we check on how many stations should be there for us to really complement everything, we still need a lot more so that we will be able to measure, we'll be able to back up with the data that we have for this, for the improvement of our clean air. And then also, we have introduced electric vehicles, jeepneys. If you're familiar with the Philippines, we have our jeepneys. And here we have your tuk-tuk, and then some of countries have buses. So we have that, electric vehicles already. And then we, because of the stations that's already in place, we have the emissions monitoring system. And it's already connected. There's already a database at the central office for all the stations, and you can actually see it in our website, in the Environmental Management Bureau website. So all of this help us in the implementation of the Clean Air Act. Although there are still some challenges, especially in the regional setting, because of the agricultural or informal burning. And then we still need to tighten our stationary source emission standards. As mentioned by Daniel earlier, I'm checking actually what our standards are, as opposed to the presentation earlier, if there's a need to tighten it so that it will be better for our citizens. And then one of the risks or challenges that we have actually is the legacy fleets, the second-hand vehicles, because it's difficult to transition, especially if there are small, very small operators that they do not have enough source of fund to transition to a better or more improved vehicle. So that's our challenge in the implementation of the Clean Air Act.
No, I think those are excellent points, Janice. And I take the point that, the acts are there, and it provides the framework, and within that you have to continue to tighten and adjust, right? I mean, that's the nature of the beast, right? And I was taken this morning with Professor Hekabin's keynote, where he shows the China experience and how they're basically, set targets, see impact, then tighten targets, see impact. Of course, that's a particular governance structure that may not be relevant to all the countries that we work in, but I think that that approach is obviously what makes sense, right? Yeah, well, it definitely works best there. We're all jealous of seeing how environmental management works in that part of the world, no question. And just pointing out this thing about the legacy fleets, I'm so complicated, because you can roll out all the e-vehicles in the world, and if you're not getting the dirty vehicles off the street, you're not necessarily solving your problem, right? So it's that combination of efforts is really important. Great, so I'm gonna come to Dhaka. We were on the same flight yesterday. Yeah, so we came together. We came from, we took off. I wasn't sure if we were in the clouds. Yeah, right? But good to have you here and talk about, can you please tell us about what is happening in terms of how the ministry, I guess the Department of Environment in particular, but how do you work? It's such a multi-sector issue, right? So how do you work across all the different sectors that are responsible in Bangladesh? Please.
Thank you, AJ, for having me in these very important discussions. Good afternoon, colleagues and panelists. In fact, considering the very diverse source of air pollution, and as you already mentioned about the multi-sectoral contribution to the air pollution at national level, whole of the government approach is critically important. And we understand that in terms of inter-ministerial, inter-agency coordination is a real challenge. We have been struggling for years to establish and maintain this very good and effective inter-ministerial coordination as well as inter-agency coordination. But the point is that we have made an improvement over the last 2 years in terms of establishing, promulgating national air quality pollution control rules, Air Pollution Control Rules 2022, and this APCR 2022 have elevated the management of air quality beyond environment ministry, environment sector, and by establishing a very high-powered multi-sector body, we call it National Committee on Air Pollution Control, chaired by, presided by the topmost bureaucrat, the cabinet secretary in our civil service. The cabinet secretary and the members are all respective ministries, almost 15 ministries, the secretary or senior secretaries of the ministry and the relevant agencies, the head of the agencies, they are the member of the National Committee on Air Pollution Control, and their prime responsibility is to instruct and guide and supervise the implementation of Air Pollution Control Rules 2022, as well as we already developed National Air Quality Management Plan from 2024 to 2030, 5-year national plan, and they will also look after the proper implementation of National Air Quality Management Plan. So we feel that in terms of considering the apex body, all respective secretaries are there, and led by the cabinet secretary, he is the top bureaucrat in the civil service. So we are hoping that by their direct interventions in the ministries' activities, the multi-sector ministries and agencies will get some benefits out of this, the committee's functions and responsibilities. And they have started doing some instructions to the relevant ministries and agencies for specific interventions in line with the air pollution control rules and National Air Quality Management Plan.
Excellent. So I think that point about how you get multi-leadership, right? Leadership, coordination, multi-sector, and elevating is a really important point. Would you just maybe, since we're talking Bangladesh, what's then the role of local government, and what's the interface between this sort of national level coordination and local government, since the pollution comes from obviously many different places? How does that work?
You are right. In terms of the dust pollution, PM2, PM2.5 pollution, local government is one of the critical, the contributor to the dust pollution from the construction activities. And we understand that they are also in the committee, National Committee on Air Pollution Control. And at the same time, during the last interim government, they also formed a task force committee to address the dust pollution coming from the construction activities, particularly, and led by the secretary of the local government ministry and the respective head of the agencies were there. I was also the member of this task force committee, led by the local government ministry, and all the head of the city corporations and municipalities are members in the committee. So we try, and they also prepared a roadmap, 2 years roadmap to address the dust pollution in the cities and the municipalities.
So just to understand, so you're taking specific, let's call it sector interventions, like here, city dust control. The ministry responsible for local government then works with representatives of all the cities on that specific issue. That's the model. Okay, interesting. Okay.
The point is, actually, if you consider the construction, road construction and other infrastructure construction, they are mandated to do these constructions as a city government. But the point is, in some cases, they do in isolation. There has been no coordination and collaboration among the agencies and the city corporations. So we are trying to improve this coordination so that the air pollution can be reduced from the construction activity.
Excellent. So I think that's a good example of how you take a sector and kind of nudge it, right, through local government. And Janice, can I ask you also, I mean, this is sort of linked again with a bit on the, so let's say the governance side, right? So I understand Philippines also has this, it has a very decentralized setup, right? And so you have local governments are playing a big role in management of pollution. So what's the interplay in the Philippines side, like between national government and holding these local governments accountable for the outcomes? How does that work, please?
Okay. For the Philippines, we have, it may be, our air pollution violations may be enforced both by the national and the local government. So it depends on the nature and where, the location of there are violations on this air pollution violations. So I was also pollution adjudication board secretary in the Philippines for roughly for 5 years, I think. So there are clean air, those clean air violations are adjudicated there. That's a national government agency under the DNR also. And then for the local governments, we have this airshed governing boards. It's the main linkage between the national and the local governments. So it's the airshed governing boards. We establish those airshed governing boards, and then there will be clean air action plans that may be established there, enforcement, and then linkages, also public awareness. So the regional director of the region is a co-chair of that airshed governing board. So for the National Capital Region, I am also the co-chair. And so whenever we have meetings, we discuss about the plans and how to enforce it. And also the best practices of each local governments, if there are, that can be replicated by the other government agencies. We do that also. So basically, it's both a coordination, an avenue for coordination of the national and the local government. As to the air pollution violations, really, the national and the local governments can also enforce it. For example, for us, at the regional level of the DNR, Environmental Management Bureau, Sir was mentioning about construction activities. So we have the environmental compliance certificate. We also look into the dust emissions that should be there. So we put in a condition in the ECC that there should be no dust emission and 100% compliance to the Clean Air Act. So that's how we enforce basically our clean air rules, policies.
It's both a coordination, it's a knowledge sharing, and it's ensuring you have nested, I guess, provisions, right? So, okay, interesting, right? Can I ask you, Ruth, a bit about Jakarta? Of course, Jakarta is one giant metropolitan area, but I think how many cities? 5 municipal areas, is that right? You tell me, Jabotabek. I'm going to get it wrong. 4. Okay, thank you. Okay, so 4 municipal areas. So how do you, when you have air quality, of course, you have to find ways to work across that airshed, right, in that case. So how is that, what is happening, and how are you working together with the neighboring provinces? Are there formal mechanisms? Is it more of a knowledge sharing? How does it work? Thanks.
Thank you, AG, for the question. Yes, it is true that we're experiencing the challenges of air pollution, and we believe that the air pollution has no border. So we have the data that said 45% to 65% of Jakarta's pollution is originating coming from the surrounding area of Jakarta, the greater Jakarta, that is West Java and also Banten. And we also have data that 60% of Jakarta trips start from the surrounding area, the suburb area of Jakarta. And this greater area only covered by public transportation only in 2%. So it is very far from the ideal one. So we currently have a body that help us to coordinate. It is Environment and Forestry Ministry that help us in monitoring the reducing emission, the stationary sources, and also the Greater Jakarta Transportation, which help us to monitoring the reducing emission of the mobile sources. And what we learned about the implementation so far, that there is a gap. There is a gap in implementation because we, first of all, we have a different fiscal ability between Jakarta and also the other surrounding area in Jakarta. Jakarta has its own budget, but the other surrounding area still relies on the national budget. And we also, receive many collaboration with, we do have a collaboration with other international collaborator, but probably they do not. And also we need the very strong role of the national level at expanding the public transportation network, so we can give another alternative for the commuter for the cleaner way to go to their office in Jakarta. And also we need the national level or other special body to hold the same strict standard to all region. And yeah, about the budget, we also need a kind of support from that body or the national level to allow us to do something like co-fund project, so we can fund the project together with all the neighboring areas. And we do believe that the data integration, the management of data is also important. When we can work together as long as we have the very accurate data as a target that we want to use it as a target and also the baseline. And back again to the financial matters, it is also important for every region, the Jabodetabek, Greater Jakarta, to have to do some exploration about how we can have creative financing for funding our green project. Let's say it's a philanthropy or others, and probably we could also explore about the carbon pricing instrument to fund the green project in our region. So we believe that to make a greater impact, we should work together. We should have a right partnership and also a collective action. And the most important thing is sharing knowledge and best practice too. Thank you.
Ruth, I think these are, it's really, as you say, it's fundamental, right? I mean, you can't solve the problem without having mechanisms for coordination and joint action. And these, when you have like the discrepancies in funding, the capacity, right? The capacity to implement, whether it's having the money, the knowledge, the data, the transportation system, right? Like it's real, right? We don't have anyone from India on the panel, but what they've done with they have these finance commission grants, right? That they've been using the national level to try to incentivize action on air quality. I mean, there's lots to say about it. It has been definitely lots of lessons learned, but I think having that kind of a fiscal tool to try to encourage action across different governments, right, is really something to think about. So quite interesting. And I'm going to ask you guys, we're going to ask a couple more questions here, but then we're going to open up. So please write those questions down, get your creative juices flowing, okay? And I'm going to also give time also to Kanchan if you want to speak a little bit. So, you know, Nepal has this federal structure, right? So of course each country has its own way. Those challenges become real when you're trying to do national activities, right? National, provincial, local. Can you speak a little bit about how air quality is being coordinated across those different levels of government and where you see the key, let's say, challenges in that? Thanks.
Thank you. Actually, if you want to be clean, you have to wash your body from top to bottom, head to foot. Only focusing in metropolitan city is not enough. So we have to know actually in emission inventory. What are the sources of the emission? And we don't have realistic emission inventory in Nepal till now. We just copied from other countries, but we have to have our own emission inventory so that we can exactly say what are the percentage of the emissions from different sources, so that we can control that one. Actually, the government has already established Euro 6 standard for the vehicles. And all imported vehicles in last year, mostly are 60% are EV. So the emission from the transportation sector is almost getting declining. Yeah. So mostly in the Nepal, you can say it is difficult to distinguish which is the main sector. Mostly we consider that the forest fire is the main sector. And the landscape itself is a big problem for Nepal. You can understand by a simple analogy. If two persons having same type of excretion, that is sweating, and one person is having regular bath, and another person baths in once in a week. So who seems better? Obviously, who was regularly. So basically in Nepal, you can say in Kathmandu Valley, the frequency of precipitation is very much less in comparison to the countries or the territory which are nearer to your sea banks. So they have winter rain also, but we have almost no rain in winter. And if you see the air quality index, you can find the maxima from December to April. There is no rain. So that is the main problems of the landscape. And actually the problem is even if Nepal is now importing only EV, the future problem is how to manage the batteries waste. So it is like onion. Problems are like onion. If you peel off one layer, there is another to be peeled up until it finishes. So we have to focus for future problems that are coming. Thank you.
Yes, that's the problem. No rest for the weary, I think we say. No question. But and the Nepal story is, I mean, it's fascinating because, of course, they have some of the cleanest energy production in the world, so much hydropower, right? There's so much clean energy that they're in a situation where they can drive everything towards transition, right, to electric, whether it's electric vehicles, the electric furnaces and kilns. There's a big effort to try to clean industry, and you know, and those are just taking advantage of the last conversation that we had in the plenary. There are really interesting financial solutions to allow you to kind of roll that out if you get the policy piece right, right? So interesting to look at what's happening in Nepal in that frame. So let me go, we have about 20 minutes left. So I'd like to, anybody, there's a good chance for conversation. You have some real expertise up on the panel. Anybody wanna get us going? Great, perfect. I see one and then two. Why don't we take 2 questions and then we'll handle those back to back. Please introduce yourself too when you ask your question.
Hi, I'm Christopher from Singapore. I'm a private lawyer. I have a question for Ruth. I am quite amazed that there is still some governmental prioritization for Jakarta. I would have thought that after Jokowi, your ex-president, decided to move the capital to Nusantara in Borneo, Jakarta will become de-emphasized. So has the move, or the prospective move, I don't think there's an actual physical move yet, has a prospective move to Nusantara affected the bottom line for environmental expenses and policies in Jakarta?
Okay, thank you, Christopher. We're going to hold off on that. You can wait to answer that, Ruth, for a minute. I'm going to take a second question also. Someone had their hand up behind.
Hi, Adil this side. I'm a policy researcher from India. My question is to Ziaul Haq. It was quite interesting to hear the governance structure, what Bangladesh has done. I'm also trying to understand, are those process-related innovations also that has been done in Bangladesh to improve enforcement, which we were talking in the plenary as well, like embedding KPIs in different projects and etc. So if you can talk about some process-level things that have been done, would be very interesting.
Great, thanks so much, appreciate it. So I'm going to ask Ruth, please feel free to speak about what is changing in terms of environmental focus in Indonesia and also why Jakarta might still be important. And then we'll pass it to Zia, thanks.
Yes, thank you, Christopher, for the question. Yeah, it is true that Jakarta was the capital city of Indonesia. There is a changing status of Jakarta. That's why Jakarta is now looking for another, what can I say, another opportunity to be stronger in terms of being the center of business and also economy, social, and also politics. We believe that being more sophisticated can make a risk in terms of the environment. That's why we try to translate the national regulation into the regional planning document. We want to prevent our environment also. So that's why when we formulating our document, planning document, we also do something like environmental strategic assessment. It is very mandatory, so we can ensure there is the development that we make is still to support the sustainability of the city. And yeah, the transforming of the capital city to IKN is still in progress, but what I may say is this Jakarta is still growing and still be a favorite one for everyone to come because it can also give more opportunity in terms of job and economy and so on. So yeah, that's the question for me.
I appreciate that. I think it's, the dynamic economic centers will always draw people, right? I mean, that's the nature. I was thinking about your comment around Kanchan about the layers of the onion. You know, you try to fix one problem and then you and with another. It's a challenge for all of us. And it is true. We were talking that both Jakarta and Manila basically have the same population as Australia, right? So don't attend those cities at your peril, right? In terms of impact, right? So just to say, so Zia, over to you to talk a bit about where you see the process changes, any kind of indicators that are driving your air pollution action.
Yeah, thank you for your very good question. In fact, in terms of achieving effective compliance and enforcement, obviously we have to have good monitoring system in place. And in that case, with the support of the World Bank, we are trying to establish the continuous emission monitoring system, particularly in heavy industries, the heavy air polluting industries. And at the same time, we are also trying, with the support of the World Bank, in another project, we are trying to establish online ETP monitoring system for the liquid effluent. So, and we hope that if we will be able to expand our coverage for all liquid effluent industries, textile, particularly textile dyeing, as well as the air polluting, heavy air polluting industries, so that we can have a good monitoring, effective monitoring, sitting in our desk, and we can go for the real-time compliance and enforcement. This is the one way of addressing this. Another activity, actually, now it is not fully functional, but over the last few years, the National Board of Revenue, NBR, they have established 1% environment protection surcharge for polluting industries. So those polluting industries, they are bound to pay 1% of their annual sale as the environment protection surcharge. So there are a few tools we are trying to apply in terms of the good enforcement and compliance. Thank you.
And I think that critical piece, right, about investing in the data and quality data, transparent data, using that as the base for your enforcement action, but also, yeah, I mean, I think it's so powerful to show industry or actors, you know, that where they stand against a regulation, right? Right. Transparency goes a long way. Yeah, so it's great. So I'm going to take two more questions right now. I see this man, and then I see you in pink, please. Thank you, and then we'll see. Okay,
Yes, I'm Triloki Rajbasgai. I'm a PhD student at Duke University. I'm originally from Nepal. So I have two quick questions. One is with Mr. Nayak, and then I have a smaller one for Mr. Huck. So basically, Nepal is launching, as you have said, we don't have source of enforcement. We don't know where the actual problem is. And then World Bank is now funding a new project, hopefully. I think it's going to get approved in March. I looked about the Feb 10th document. And then we are allocating a chunk of that money into cleaning up the broilers and things. And how can we be so certain that that is a priority area if we don't have source enforcement and we are relying on 2025 Clean Air Report, who works mostly on a model data, right? And then the second question is, we are taking the loan from World Bank while having a ton of taxes collected in pollution. I think Nepal has $150 million of tax that was collected through every liter of petroleum product. And then it was not accounted for. It was taken into the central treasury, and ministry did not get that money. And some of the ministry people also told about that. So I have questions about that. And for Mr. Huck, I looked through the recent Transparency International's report for Bangladesh, and it claims in last 7 years, it claims 50% of the money used in climate initiatives are lost to corruption, which accounts for more than $150 million. And then the third one is and then Oxfam gave this report which World Bank submitted a very strong rebuttal against. But in Oxfam also in 2024, it was mentioned that almost half, about $41 billion in clean, climate fund was not traceable because lack of record keeping. So these are the things I just want to bring in front of table because it's a government.
So just to be clear, you're making comments or you have a question?
Questions. So for the Nepal's team, what is this allocation of the $15 million going to be on source apportionment and things. I read through the report. And then why like this $30 million is being invested within the industries. With Professor Huck, like what's his opinion on leakage of this fund, because he's one of the people in charge of that. And also the general World Bank comment on how these decisions are being made. Thank you.
Great, thank you, sir. Please, to you.
So my question is also to Mr. Naik and Mr. Hook. So since there was discussion on emission inventories, like what are the sources on Nepal, so I feel like previous emission inventories has shown transport is one of the major sector, and I wasn't aware till now like Nepal has transitioned to Euro 6 fuel standard. When does it happen? Like is it in plan, or has it been already happened? And from Bangladesh, like you mentioned, there was a 2-year roadmap on road dust management, and South Asia as a region, we suffer a lot on road dust management, and even in India, around 67% of the fund has been used for road dust management. So what are the lessons that you have learned from your 2 years of roadmap work, and is there any resource that we can go and look at it, like what has worked and what hasn't worked? Thank you.
And let me just take a couple more questions while we're at it right here. I'm going to have you and then Jung, right? And then we'll come back over in the corner on the second round, okay? Thanks.
Oh, thank you. My question actually for Ibu Ruth about Jakarta. So first, I congratulate Jakarta. Actually, you have been doing more, getting more electric bus. Actually, also you have convert the coal to the natural gas for the power plant and also the industrial boiler in the city, right? But actually, certainly there's the issue called boundary pollution. AJ asked you your answer, right? But within Jakarta, we still see challenge, right, dealing with the transport, energy, and the industry. And we have done the study. Actually, you know it. Actually, David Kazan and also Marissa share with you our study, right? So that's our study. Our study found, this kind of work, also challenge we want to provide financial support is how your government organize, be able to bring different sectors together to put together an investment project, which we have really challenged. We talked to the Ministry of Environment. We couldn't see there's a way to do this cross-sector work. And we're hoping PAPNA and also hoping Jakarta, PAPNA, to leading this work, right? So how you answer this? How you think you'll be able to bring all the sector, all the agency, and including private sector, because some is private sector company, right? Together, putting together an investment project on air quality. That's one main question. Another one, we found out, in the transport sector, because Jakarta, DKI Jakarta, is transport sector issue. And the main issue is really improve the fuel quality, right? And raising the emission standard improve. However, the low sulfur gasoline is beyond the city level work, right? You have to work at the nation level. How you think the city can work with national level? This is general national issue, right? But still, Jakarta really has to pay attention on this. Has better high quality the gasoline. But actually, this beyond Jakarta work. How you think you can solve this problem? Yeah, thank you.
And yep.
May I know your name? Sorry.
I'm sorry, my name is Jian Xie. I'm the World Bank in Singapore office.
Yeah. So I think let's take those, and then we'll take one final round before we end. So basically, I'm sorry. Thank you. Appreciated. Okay, so broadly speaking, so there's a number of questions, obviously, around this, on let's say emissions inventories, and sort of how do you target? How do you figure out what to target, especially when data isn't really good? I think that's kind of the main question, right? And sort of you heard roadmaps for transportation, including in Nepal. Yeah, I think that's the most important. I think this question, if you'd like to speak to it about sort of why are you prioritizing specific actions? I think that's the real question. Is like why you put money in these areas, right? And you don't need to correct, but that's how I interpret it, right? Is like why, of all the things you can finance, why do you choose to finance air quality, right? That's the and And then we'll come, Ruth, also these questions about sort of how you're setting up programs to address cross-sectoral action, and what do you do for things where it's a national policy action versus something under the control of the local government. And I'm going to ask also, please, you're also welcome to respond to this from the Manila perspective if that's useful. So I'm going to ask we'll go from right to left and just respond to the questions that are relevant to you, please.
Thank you. For the first question from Nepal, person from Nepal. Actually, if your data is not representative, the result you get is not representative. Suppose anybody asks me, anybody want to know about me, and if he's asking with the person who loves me, then he will get Kanchan Kumar Nayak is the best person in the world. But if you ask my enemy, then what you get? He is the worst person of the world. So you need to get the data which is representative. So in Nepal, there are only 31 AQMS, and among them, only 10 are in working condition. So the data of air quality you get is not representative. Mostly the monitoring stations which are working are focused in Kathmandu Valley, and that are around the most polluted hotspot of the pollutions. So actually, we need a reference level in order to set a KPI. Before 2 months ago, I was in Forest Research and Training Center, and they have established a forest reference level in order to carbon credit. And they have optimistic forest reference level. So, and for buying selling the carbon credit, what is actually, we have, if the reference level is set at higher position, so we can't get more than that. So actually we need to know exact emission inventory of the country, realistic, because as some person said, that the emission inventory is already there. But that emission inventory is not realistic, because that is harnessed from other countries. From other countries. So actually Nepal, and in Nepal, the second question is that taxes. Government is collecting taxes for pollution control in fuel. And that actually all money, whether it is from NCAP project, 52 millions, or from other sector, that goes to the single treasury budget of the government. And that are distributed according to the priority. And air quality is now priority. And why we are focusing on changing the boiler? Because the different sources of the emissions, some emission sources like forest fire management, that does not require more money. Because just putting surveillance in buffer zones, collecting the litters and debris from the roadside will control the forest fire. So that doesn't require much more money. And next one is open burning. I think change behavior is needed, and change behavior you don't need money. Actually, if you go Nepal, there are some restaurants who are promoting that we sell the BBQ cooked in the forest wood fire, and people go there because people do not like BBQ from oven, or you can say furnace. So that change behavior is needed, and that again no need money. So the main sector is changing the boiler into the electric furnace. So government is funding that source for the replacing the boiler with the electric furnace. And next is waste management. Again, waste management, we are planning for the DRS, depository refund system, and EPR, extended producer responsibility. So the government is planning, and this waste management DRS system is again running in country. So the main sector is the changing of boiler with the electric furnace. And the next question is about the Euro 6 standard from India, you know. Actually, I want to quote a slogan in Hindi. You know Hindi? कभी बुजुर्गों के पास रहो, हर चीज गूगल पर उपलब्ध नहीं होती. Meaning that sit with your elder people, everything is not available in Google. So if you want to get the real data, you have to ask with the real people. If you go for AI, you don't find everything over there because there are certain recent progresses, you can't find everything there. Thank you.
So the most comprehensive node in Nepal was deployed by my project.
Right, okay,
70
sir,
nodes,
this is
so-
not a conversation, but thank you very much, appreciate it, yeah. Thank you so much. So Ruth, I'm gonna pass it to you to respond. I don't know, Janice, do you wanna, Ruth and then Janice, sorry, thanks.
Thank you, Angie, for the question. Yeah, I know that World Bank is formulating a recommendation for us in improving our air quality, and the strategy that we already implement is we want to achieve the 100% of electronic bus fleet in 2030. And currently we are having about 10% of it, about 470 out of 5,000. So it is still a long journey to achieve those goals. We do something like blended financing. We took a loan to fund that kind of target. And we believe that to improve the air quality, we cannot only just depend on the regional budget. We need also to make sure that everyone is also do the collective action. So one thing that I think it is very challenging is how we can do the conversion of the Euro 4 fuel, because we need the support for the national level to make a policy, and we have also to make sure that the supply of the fuel is ready, and also we need also to make sure that what mechanisms should we take to make sure that every car or private vehicle that come into Jakarta using that kind of fuel. And what thing is also challenging is to make policy about incentive and disincentive. And we really, because some of our studies said also that the conversion of the fuel to the cleaner fuel will give a very significant result. So we do agree with that, but we are still in our discussion to make those into our policy. I think that's one. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm sorry for rushing. We have 2 minutes left. I want to give Zia a minute, and then please, if you would like to have a final minute to say anything too, pass it to you.
In terms of the dust pollution that you have referred to, actually the interim government, now we have new democratic elected government, but during interim government, they actually prepared this roadmap, and the fundamental of the roadmap, dust control roadmap is, they call it the zero soil campaign, meaning that in the cities there should be no open land. It should be covered by grass or plants to reduce the dust pollution, the soil pollution, soil dust pollution. And another point is in terms of, again, the improving the coordination. So they try to make the advancement, improvements in the coordination among the ministries and agencies. And in terms of the climate change funds, the gentleman from Nepal has already pointed out the basic debate is going on whether the climate-related funds are allocated to the climate change sensitive projects or to the development projects. This is the main, the debate has been floated in the society and in the policymakers, that all projects, whether all projects are climate sensitive projects who receive the climate change funds at national level as well as the international level. So we are now trying to analyze and evaluate whether those projects are addressing the climate change issues by the project activities. Thank you very much.
Okay, so I'm just gonna, let me end it right here. I want to say, first of all, I also want to make sure that we answer the question, just to say that I think certainly our job at the World Bank is to work with governments to help them best understand what are the most important policy and investment actions they can take for the best benefit of their society, right? That's the job. And we're lucky enough to have great partners to work with. And I want to thank all of you for coming up here and sharing. Really interesting. You guys are doing great work. We motivate you, you motivate us, so thank you so much. And I want to thank you all for coming for this. In the next session, we're going to go deeper on actually the projects and interventions in both East and South Asia, and have a panel with private sector working on what they're financing to get to clean air. So with that, let me thank everyone again. Please join me in giving a big hand. Thank you so much. Yeah, really appreciate it.